Hey, I'm Michael, and I'm building an app that helps photographers delete photos faster. It's called Jettison, and it hasn't launched yet. I'm making this video series here on YouTube to chronicle the app's design and development, as well as the process of taking the app to market. If you haven't seen the first video, you'll really want to watch that first. I'll link it up here, and also in the description down below. That video covers a lot of ground, including why I'm building the app and how it works. There's a tour of the core parts of the user interface and an overview of some of the most important concepts like anchoring and sorting, and how the app uses machine learning to cluster photos into groups to make the pruning process as fast and easy as possible. My intention for every video is to have a specific topic or theme. Anyways, I had just decided to go with input sources when I get a text from a friend. Can I get a Jettison add-in for my Dropbox to cleanse my current portfolio? This is the same friend that asked me if I shaved my hands for the first video. Back to that Dropbox text. That was very well timed. Really, just amazing timing, because it's a question about an input source. So yes, we definitely need to talk about input sources, and yes, we're gonna do this right now. This is Jettison Devlog number 2. So what's the story here? Does Jettison work with Dropbox, or is that something special, a one-off that I need to build? In the first video, I was very careful to repeatedly use wording like connect your camera or SD card directly to your iPad, because it's simple and tells a clear story about how you get photos into Jettison. Jettison's input story is more flexible, but I made the call to simplify for the first video because there was a lot of ground to cover, and getting bogged down in details doesn't make for good video. Okay, so connect your camera or SD card doesn't tell the whole story. The whole story is that Jettison currently supports 2 input sources. The first input source relies on a framework that Apple provides called ImageCaptureCore. ImageCaptureCore provides a way for apps to interface directly with cameras and SD cards, and that's what you saw me use in the first video. ImageCaptureCore has been around on the Mac for over a decade. It was first made available in Mac OS X Snow Leopard. That was a great OS release, by the way.
No new features.
ImageCaptureCore also launched on iOS and iPadOS last year. Quick sidebar, Apple's marketing materials seem to suggest that ImageCaptureCore is an iPad-only thing, but it does work on iPhone. ImageCaptureCore provides a nice abstraction over accessing cameras and camera storage. There's a lot of benefits to using the framework. For example, your app can be notified when cameras or SD cards are connected or disconnected. Jettison pops up an alert when a new device is connected, and you can take action on that alert to immediately start processing and pruning photos. Jettison supports another input source too, the document picker, technically referred to as the UI document picker view controller. The document picker lets you access files and folders in various locations, including external storage like attached USB keys or SD cards. It can also be used to access data stored locally on your iPad's internal storage or in iCloud or other cloud storage providers. Let's take another look at Jettison. Here, the underlined document picker text acts like a button that pops up the document picker. For example, I have some photos that I use for testing Jettison that are stored in iCloud. I can just navigate this tree and tap the folder I want and then tap done. This action gives Jettison temporary access to that folder so that Jettison can work its magic. The document picker can also access data on an SD card or a USB key. Instead of tapping here, which would use ImageCaptureCore under the covers, I can find the SD card in the document picker and select that instead. The end result is about the same. Jettison will access all the files on the SD card, run them through its machine learning algorithms, and present the pruning interface. This UI de-emphasizes the document picker. It clearly wants to steer you to use ImageCaptureCore. ImageCaptureCore has benefits for sure, like a tighter user experience, and using your SD card with the document picker can be a little confusing. If you just select the SD card and hit done, that'll work great, but what if you inadvertently expand the tree and poke around inside? It's not clear what you should select. And that's where the document picker falls down a bit. I'm not able to present any instructions alongside the document picker, so you're kind of on your own. And that was my initial thinking behind de-emphasizing it in the user interface. Also, my experience with the document picker is that it can be a bit buggy, especially with attached storage. Sometimes you'll need to disconnect and reconnect the storage device in order for the OS to be able to see any files. Unfortunately, I can't do anything on my end to fix that. But Despite the shortcomings, having access to the document picker dramatically increases the flexibility of Jettison. For example, jumping back to the question my friend texted me, no, not the hand-shaving one. Jettison will in fact work with the files in your Dropbox. Just use the document picker and select a folder in your Dropbox. So I'll probably change this UI. I'm not sure what the right design is, but I'd like for the document picker to at least be featured a bit more prominently. And I have a strong suspicion that the document picker will be a popular choice for Jettison users, especially for the use case of cleaning up old photos that have been piling up. Okay, Jamie, I hope that answers your question. Thumbs up for jettisoning your Dropbox. Come to think of it, I've never actually tested pruning photos in my Dropbox. I've just assumed it'll work because Dropbox works fine in the Files app and shows up as a source in the document picker. But for completeness, I mean, I'm making this whole video anyways. Let's just test it now. Why is nothing happening when I tap on Dropbox? Okay, I've done a little digging and it turns out that Dropbox doesn't actually support opening folders from the document picker. You can open individual files, but not folders. Dropbox, you need to get your together. Stop building stuff no one needs and focus on the fundamentals. So the Dropbox story is a bit more complicated than I'd like. While we wait on Dropbox to in the interim, there are a bunch of workarounds. For example, you could copy the files to local storage on your iPad, or just put them on a USB key and then point Jettison at that source. Alternatively, you could use the Mac version of Jettison. The Mac version is not as far along as the iPad version. I'll cover it in an upcoming video, but the document picker on the Mac doesn't have the same limitations as on iPad. So you'll be able to just point it at the Dropbox folder on your Mac's drive and everything will just work. Okay, now you might be thinking, what about the photos taken with an iPhone? Like, why doesn't Jettison support Apple's photo library, the one where all the photos captured on an iPhone go by default? That's a great question. Adding support for Apple's photo library will expand the addressable market for Jettison by at least several orders of magnitude. And it doesn't actually just benefit people shooting with their iPhones or iPads. It's also helpful for anyone that uses Photos.app for storing their photo library, which already supports external cameras and raw photos. I'm definitely planning on adding support. It's not already implemented though for a few reasons. Number one, I need to draw the line somewhere. If I keep expanding the app's scope, I'll never be able to ship a version 1.0. Number two, there are benefits to keeping the user base smaller and more focused, especially for an indie project like this one. I can be more responsive to feedback and can make sure that the app is as solid as possible. But on the other hand, I know with absolute certainty, it doesn't matter how many times I set the expectation that the built-in photo library is not supported by the app. Like, that could literally be the only thing in the app's description in the App Store, and people are still going to be upset, probably very upset, that it doesn't work with the built-in photo library. I'm already haunted by the 1-star reviews, and the app hasn't even launched yet. And there's also an open question about just how much work it actually will be to add photo library support to Jettison. If I can get it done properly with a few weeks of work, it probably makes sense to just add the feature now. So how long will it take? Well, something I advocate doing with engineering teams that I work with are spikes. Time-boxed throwaway prototypes to get a sense of whether a feature or implementation approach or strategy is feasible, and to start building up a sense of what the unknown unknowns are and to inform estimation about how long something will actually take to implement. So in the spirit of practicing what I preach, and since I have a captive audience, I'm going to allocate an entire morning to trying to add photo library support to Jettison. This will be a throwaway prototype, so even if the spike goes well, I'm not promising that the feature will be in version 1.0. Let's do this. It works. Wow, that was fun. Sometimes making a throwaway prototype really is the best. This was only a few hours of work, and just cleaning up this code is going to take at least 10x that long. Not to mention adding everything that's missing, like a UI to give users the ability to choose which photo album they want to prune. And there's also the whole question about what to do about live photos and live photo effects and error handling and performance. So no promises that photo library support will be in Jettison 1.0. I know myself, it'll be in 1.0. Awesome. That's it. Thanks for watching. And for the record, I have never waxed or shaved or otherwise modified the hair on my hands. Thanks again. Ciao.